There you go, Mr. Smith. All fresh now. Stacy adjusted the collar of his shirt, her brown fingers gentle against the expensive fabric. Sun's beautiful this morning. Connecticut looks like a postcard when it snows like this. Maybe we'll sit by the window after breakfast. For 4 years, she'd bathed him, fed him, spoken to a man who never answered. 4 years of one-sided conversations in a Greenwich mansion that cost more than her entire Bronx neighborhood. 4 years of caring for a billionaire who stared through her like she was invisible. But when his fingers wrapped around hers that night, firm, deliberate, impossible, Stacy Colon realized the most dangerous thing in that Connecticut mansion wasn't his billions. It was the secret he'd been hiding all along. Because paralyzed men don't grip back. Paralyzed men don't follow you with their eyes when they think you're not looking. And paralyzed men definitely don't whisper your name in the darkness at 2 a.m. If you love stories about fighting back when the world says you're powerless, about finding your voice even when you've been silent for years, about proving you're enough when everyone treats you like you're invisible, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, what do you think Derek Smith has been hiding for 4 years? And subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss what happens when Stacy discovers the truth. The alarm screamed at 5 a.m., and Stacy's hand shot out from under the thin comforter before her brain fully woke. In the next room, she could hear Malik stirring, his 13-year-old body still learning the rhythm of early mornings. She pulled on yesterday's jeans and moved through the cramped two-bedroom like muscle memory. Coffee for her, cereal for him, uniform scrubs folded in her bag next to the turkey sandwich she'd made the night before. You got that spelling test today, she called through his door while braiding her hair in the bathroom mirror. You studied? Yes, Annie Stace. His voice cracked on the last syllable. Getting older. Growing up without his mother. By 6:15, she was on the Metro North from Harlem 125th Street, watching the Bronx disappear behind her. Her reflection in the window showed everything. Discount maroon scrubs from the medical supply store, knockoff Nikes with the check slightly off-center, tired eyes that never quite looked rested anymore. Outside, the landscape transformed like crossing into another country. Urban density gave way to sprawling estates. Chain-link fences became stone walls. Corner stores became nothing but trees for miles. The GPS on her phone guided her the last quarter mile from Greenwich Station. Electric gates. Manicured grounds that probably cost more to maintain than her annual salary. The Smith estate rose ahead like something from a movie, all glass and stone and old money wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Inside, Patricia was already waiting. The head housekeeper had ice in her veins and a watch that cost more than Stacy's car. You're late. It's 7:58. I start at 8. Mr. Smith requires precision. Patricia's lips pressed into a line. His tea at exactly 8:15. Therapy begins at 9 o'clock sharp. Wheelchair angled 17 degrees from the south windows. Stacy had learned not to argue. She nodded, set down her bag, and walked into the sunroom where Derek Smith sat in his wheelchair, positioned exactly as he'd been yesterday. As he'd been for 1,460 days. 45 years old, handsome in that way wealthy white men age, good bone structure, expensive skincare, salt and pepper hair that probably cost $200 to cut. His eyes stared past the floor-to-ceiling windows at nothing. Morning, Mr. Smith. Stacy adjusted the throw blanket across his lap. It's Tuesday, which means we're doing arm exercises after breakfast. Malik's got a spelling test today. Wish him luck for me. From the doorway, Patricia's voice cut sharp. Why do you talk to him? He can't hear you. Stacy didn't turn around. My mama always said everybody deserves to be spoken to like they matter, even if they can't answer back. What Stacy couldn't know was that behind those vacant eyes, Derek Smith was counting. 1,460 days of this performance. 1,460 days of watching her walk through his door and treat him like a person instead of expensive furniture. She was the only one who did. The day passed in careful increments: tea, exercises, lunch, more therapy, medications he didn't need, routines that kept everyone believing. By 5 p.m., Stacy was packing her bag again. See you tomorrow, Mr. Smith. She touched his shoulder gently. I'm rooting for you. Always have been. On the train home, she pulled out her phone and opened the dating app she barely had time for. One notification. A match from 3 days ago had sent a message. Where do you work? She'd answered honestly. Private care nurse in Greenwich. His response came while she watched, gold digger. Then he unmatched. Stacy locked her phone and stared out at the city lights rising up to meet her. Another day. Another dollar. Another reminder that women like her weren't supposed to exist in spaces like that mansion, let alone deserve anything from them. The call came during lunch prep on a Tuesday that felt like every other Tuesday. Stacy's phone buzzed against her thigh, and she saw Malik's school flash across the screen. Her stomach dropped before she even answered. Ms. Cologne, this is Principal Chin. We need to discuss Malik's lunch account balance and the outstanding fees for his field trip to the Museum of Natural History. She locked herself in the marble bathroom, the guest one with heated floors that probably cost more than her entire apartment, and cried as quietly as she could manage. $247. That's what stood between her nephew and a normal childhood. $247 that might as well have been $2 million. When she returned to Derek's room, her eyes were still red. She didn't bother hiding it anymore. You ever feel like no matter how hard you work, it's never enough? She set his lunch tray down with shaking hands. I got 2 jobs, Mr. Smith. This one and weekend shifts at a nursing home in Yonkers. I'm doing everything right. But the system, it's not built for people like me to win. The words came faster now, for years of swallowed frustration rising up. What am I worth? Really? Because America keeps telling me I'm only worth minimum wage and a bus seat in the back. She covered her face with both hands. I'm sorry. You don't need my problems. Derek's right hand, resting on the wheelchair armrest, trembled. Just slightly. His jaw tightened so imperceptibly that in the afternoon light, you might have missed it entirely. Inside his head, the words he couldn't say, "You're worth everything. You're worth more than all of this." Over the next 2 weeks, Stacy started noticing impossible things. Small things. The wheelchair moved 3 inches from its painter tape mark on the floor. A book on his side table that definitely wasn't there yesterday, Maya Angelou poetry, opened to Still I Rise. She read the words aloud without meaning to. Does my sassiness upset you? Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. I'm losing it, she muttered to herself. Objects don't move themselves. But she started keeping mental notes anyway. Water glass refilled when she'd been out of the room for 30 seconds. TV remote angled differently. His hand positioned wrong, like he'd moved it and forgotten to put it back exactly. Then she found the medical files. Patricia had asked her to dust his home office, and there they were in an unlocked drawer. Neurologist's reports from 4 years ago. She shouldn't look. She absolutely should not look. But her hands were already turning pages. Patient shows inconsistent responses to stimuli. Recommend comprehensive evaluation and second opinion. Prognosis unclear. No follow-up appointments. No second opinion. Almost like someone had deliberately stopped investigating. That afternoon, she knelt beside his wheelchair. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Mr. Smith. Derek. Can I call you Derek? Silence. I need to ask you something crazy. And I need you to understand how insane this sounds coming out of my mouth. She took a breath that hurt. Can you hear me? Really hear me? Have you been hearing me this whole time? 5 seconds of absolute stillness. Then his left pinky finger lifted. Once. Deliberately. Stacy stumbled backward, hand clamped over her mouth. Oh my God. Oh my God. She ran from the room like the mansion was on fire. The call came at 11:47 p.m., while Stacy was brushing her teeth. Patricia's voice cut through the speaker like broken glass. Ms. Cologne, you need to return to the estate immediately. What? Why? It's almost midnight. Security situation. Mr. Smith cannot be left unattended. A car is already en route to your location. What kind of security? Click. Stacy stood there in her bathroom, toothbrush dripping foam into the sink, heart suddenly racing. She checked on Malik, 13 years old and sleeping peacefully, one arm thrown over his face, then knocked on Ms. Johnson's door across the hall. Her neighbor asked no questions, just nodded and grabbed her robe. By 12:40 a.m., a black SUV had delivered Stacy back to a mansion she barely recognized. Every shutter sealed. Security guards stationed at each entrance like sentries. The air itself felt compressed, dangerous. Frank, head of security, met her at the door. Attempted breach of the home network. Possible corporate espionage. Lockdown protocol. You'll stay in the guest suite adjacent to Mr. Smith's quarters. Do not leave the wing. Do not use your phone. Understand? No, I don't understand. What's happening? That's not your concern. You're here to care for Mr. Smith. The wing door locked behind her with a heavy metallic click that echoed in her chest. Derek sat in his wheelchair by the bedroom window, face expressionless as always. But now she knew. Now everything was different. Every angle of his body felt like a choice rather than a limitation. "This is about you, isn't it?" Her voice came out low, barely above a whisper. "Someone's coming for you. Or coming for something you have." Hours crawled by like wounded animals. She tried resting in the guest room, but every sound jolted her awake. Footsteps in the hall, voices downstairs, a car engine growling to life. By 2:47 a.m., she gave up and returned to his room. She pulled a chair close enough to see the rise and fall of his chest. "I don't know what game you're playing, Derek Smith. But if we're gonna die tonight, I need to know why. Why fake it? Why let me," her voice cracked open, "why let me care about you like you were broken when maybe you never were?" In the moonlight filtering through a gap in the shutters, she saw it. A single tear tracking down his cheek, catching silver light as it fell. He was crying. The man who couldn't move was crying. "Oh, Derek." She reached instinctively, her thumb brushing the tear away. His skin was warm, alive, present. His eyes closed slowly, deliberately. It was an answer. An apology. A confession all at once. She kept her hand against his face. "We're going to survive this. Whatever this is. And then you're going to tell me everything. Deal?" His eyes opened, meeting hers fully, completely, for the first time in 4 years. She saw him then, the man behind the mask. Lonely. Terrified. Desperate to be known. And something else, a softness when he looked at her, something that made her breath catch. The word formed on his lips, barely a whisper. "Stay." Stacy's heart stopped. "You can talk. Stay." Stronger this time, like he'd been saving that word for years. She sank deeper into the chair, her hand finding his. "I'm not going anywhere." They sat like that until dawn broke over Connecticut, her hand in his. Two people finally seeing each other after 1,460 days of blindness. Morning light crawled through the shutters like something wounded. The lockdown had lifted, but tension still pressed against the windows. Stacy stood by Derek's wheelchair, exhausted but unwilling to back down now. "Show me." Her voice was steady despite everything. "Whatever you're hiding, show me. I think I've earned that." His eyes moved toward the bookshelf across the room. She followed his gaze. "Here?" His eyes closed once. "Yes." She approached the shelf slowly, leather-bound classics, tech industry memoirs, business books arranged with the kind of precision wealth could afford. Her fingers traced the spines until she reached The Innovator's Dilemma. She pulled. The shelf clicked, then swung inward like a door in a thriller she wouldn't have believed yesterday. "What is this?" The words came out barely above a whisper. The hidden room was small, windowless. Wall of monitors, filing cabinets, a desk drowning in documents. Derek's wheelchair wouldn't fit through the narrow entrance. He stayed outside, watching her cross the threshold into 4 years of secrets. The first filing cabinet was labeled Genesis Project, Confidential. Her hands shook as she opened it. Technical documents about autonomous vehicle software. Safety test results stamped failed in angry red. Internal memos discussing timelines and market advantage. One email printout made her stomach turn. "We'll lose the contract if we delay." Fudge the numbers. Then she found the news clippings. Tragic accident claims wife and son of tech CEO Derek Smith. The date, 4 years and 2 months ago. "The accident that killed your family," she said aloud, piecing it together. "It wasn't an accident." "It was," she couldn't finish. "Didn't need to." Another file. Whistleblower evidence package, FBI. Copies of everything, meticulously organized, dated across 4 years. He'd been feeding information to federal investigators anonymously, building a case one document at a time. Financial records showed transfers to victim compensation funds, families affected by the same technology. Letters drafted to those families, never sent. "I'm sorry. I should have known. I should have stopped them." The final drawer held a personal journal. Recent entries filled with her name. "Stacy brought Malik's artwork to show me today. She thinks I can't see it. I memorized every crayon stroke." Stacy sang while working today. Old gospel song. Reminded me there's still beauty. How do I tell her? How do I explain I've been watching her be kind to a man she thinks is broken? That she's the only thing keeping me from giving up entirely? The last entry was dated yesterday. I think she knows. God help me, I think she knows, and I'm terrified she'll leave. Stacy pressed the journal to her chest, tears hot against her face. She returned to Derek and knelt in front of his wheelchair, eye level with a man who'd been hiding in plain sight for 1,460 days. "Your family. They died because of corporate greed. And you've spent 4 years bringing them down from the inside. His jaw worked. A single nod. And me? Her voice broke. What am I? His hand lifted, shaking from disuse but determined, and touched her face with a gentleness that shattered something in her chest. His voice came out raspy, unpracticed. Everything. You're everything. The rest of that day moved differently. There was a new understanding between them, like learning to breathe in a room where the oxygen had doubled. Stacy read to him, but now it wasn't one-sided. Now his eyes followed every word, responded to every pause. She picked up the Maya Angelou book from the side table, weighing it in her hands. You left this out for me, didn't you? His lips curved, the smallest smile, but real. She opened to the marked page and read aloud. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. This is how I felt my whole life. Her voice went quiet, intimate. Stepped on. Told I'm less than. But still rising. Still fighting. She looked at him. Is that how you feel? Like you've been in the dirt? Derek's voice came stronger than before. I put myself there. As punishment. For what? Not protecting them. Not seeing the corruption until it was too late. Stacy set the book down and took both his hands in hers, holding them like anchors. You're protecting people now. You've been fighting for 4 years. That's not punishment, Derek. That's penance. That's redemption. I don't deserve. Stop. The word cut clean through the air. I've listened to that lie my whole life. You don't deserve. From teachers, from bosses, from men, from a country that tells black women we should be grateful for scraps. I'm done with it, and you should be too. He stared at her, this fierce, beautiful woman who saw through everything and refused to look away. You're right, he whispered. About everything. She stood, pulling him up with her. His legs trembled but held. What are you doing? Alarm shot through his voice. You're standing. You're done hiding. He wobbled. She steadied him, her hands firm on his arms. First time on his feet in 4 years. He was taller than she'd expected. She was eye level with his chest now, had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Stacy, there you are. She smiled up at him. Finally. He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs tracing her cheekbones like he was learning her by touch. I see you. I've seen you from day one. The way you fight for your nephew. The way you speak to me like I matter. Your strength. Your heart. Say it. The whisper barely made it past her lips. Your beauty. Inside and out. You're the most beautiful thing in my world. For years of loneliness cracked open inside her chest. She kissed him. Or he kissed her. It didn't matter who started it. It was desperate and tender and 4 years overdue. His hands in her hair, her palms pressed against his chest, feeling his heart hammer. When they broke apart, both were crying. This is crazy, she laughed through the tears. Completely, he agreed, his forehead pressed to hers. We're from different worlds. I don't care about worlds. I care about you. She helped him back to the wheelchair. His legs gave out, exhausted from disuse, but everything had changed. The man who sat down wasn't the same man who'd been sitting there for 1,460 days. And the woman who steadied him wasn't the invisible caregiver from the Bronx anymore. They were finally seeing each other. And they weren't looking away. 1 week later, Tuesday morning arrived like any other. Except Stacy pulled up to find 10 expensive cars filling the circular driveway. Men and women in power suits moved through the entrance like sharks scenting blood. The board of directors. Patricia intercepted her at the door. You're not needed today. Stay in the kitchen. What's happening? Emergency board meeting. Mr. Smith's estate. None of your concern. But Stacy had learned not to follow orders blindly. She made coffee like she was told, then positioned herself near the study door someone had left slightly open. Just enough. Richard Langford's voice carried like a judge pronouncing sentence. For years, Derek. For years of this charade, while you systematically undermined everything we built. Everything you stole, you mean? Derek's voice rang clear, public, strong. The room went silent as a held breath. Elizabeth Chin spoke next, disbelief sharp in her tone. You've been conscious this entire time? Every single day. Chaos erupted. Accusations, denials, threats overlapping until they became white noise. Stacy pressed closer to the door. Langford again. Do you understand what you've cost us? The SEC investigation, the FBI raids, the congressional inquiry. All traced back to anonymous tips. It was you. It was me, Derek confirmed, his calm more terrifying than shouting. Every piece of evidence. Every testimony. Every family I could find who suffered because of our negligence. Our negligence? You mean our business decisions. I mean our crimes. Stacy's hand flew to her mouth, heart hammering against her ribs. Chin noticed the coffee service then. Who prepared this? Patricia's voice, the caregiver. Langford's eyes narrowed with predatory focus. Bring her in. Security dragged Stacy into the study before she could run. 10 faces turned toward her like spotlights. Derek sat in his wheelchair at the table's head, eyes wide with warning she understood too late. Langford approached her slowly. How long have you known? Known what? That he's been faking. That he's been coherent. I just care for him. I don't. Don't lie to us, Ms. Cologne. Chin produced a file like a magician pulling a rabbit from hell. We've had you investigated. Bronx native. Raising your sister's kid. Paycheck to paycheck. Suddenly you're making $85,000 a year caring for a vegetable. Awfully convenient. Derek's voice cut through like breaking glass. She knew nothing. Then why did we find emails between your private server and the New York Times IP track to this household? Langford's smile was all teeth. Stacy's blood turned to ice. She'd sent nothing. But they were setting her up anyway. The help has been helping, Langford sneered, moving closer. How much did he pay you? Or was it something else? His eyes raked over her body with deliberate disgust. Rage flashed across Derek's face so fast Stacy almost missed it. She found her voice somewhere deep. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you won't mind if we report you to the nursing board for ethics violations. Professional misconduct. Have your nephew's custody revoked. Contact your sister's parole board about your criminal conspiracy. Leave her alone. Derek's roar filled the room like thunder. Why? Langford leaned close enough that Stacy could smell his expensive cologne. Unless she means something to you. Unless this cripple act wasn't just about playing spy. Unless you've been playing house with the help. The room's disgust was palpable. Not just at Derek's deception, but at the implication. A billionaire and a black caregiver. The unspoken words hung heavier than what was said. Derek's face turned to stone, but his eyes begged her, run. Please run. Langford delivered his ultimatum like a death sentence. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over operational control of the company. You're going to recant your testimony. And you're going to make this woman disappear from your life. Or we'll destroy her. Her nephew. Her sister. Everything. Don't, Derek said quietly. Don't what? Threaten you? You're the one who betrayed us. Don't make me choose between destroying you and protecting her. Langford laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. You're not in a position to threaten anyone. Derek met Stacy's eyes one last time. I'm sorry. Then, fine. I'll sign. She goes. Tonight. Stacy's world shattered like glass hitting concrete. Security escorted her out. Patricia handed her a cardboard box with her belongings. A few photos, Malik's drawings, the Maya Angelou book. I told you, Patricia said coldly. He can't hear you. You never mattered. Stacy didn't look back. Couldn't. If she did, she'd break right there on the marble floor. On the train back to the Bronx, watching Connecticut disappear behind her, she finally let herself cry. 3 days later, Stacy still hadn't left her apartment. The walls felt closer each hour, pressing in like the world was shrinking around her. Malik knocked on her bedroom door. Auntie, why aren't you going to work? I got a new job, baby. Closer to home. The lie tasted like metal on her tongue. She had nothing. She'd checked her bank account obsessively. Last paycheck deposited. Then a wire transfer that made her stomach turn. $50,000. Severance. Hush money. Blood money. She wanted to send it back, wanted to throw it in their faces. She didn't. Malik needed glasses. Her sister needed a lawyer. The world didn't care about pride when you were drowning. Her phone rang constantly. The agency asking why she quit without notice. Malik's school about enrollment forms. Her sister calling from prison, voice small and worried through the static. Stacy ignored everyone, let the calls go to voicemail until the mailbox was full. The fourth night, 11:23 p.m., an unknown number lit up her screen. She almost let it ring out. Almost. Ms. Cologne. A man's voice, older, careful with each word. Who is this? My name is Charles. I've been Mr. Smith's driver for 32 years. Her heart stopped. I don't want to talk about. They're going to kill him tomorrow night. Stacy froze, phone pressed so hard against her ear it hurt. The board voted. They're going to stage a car accident. Just like his wife and son. Make it look natural. He knows. He's accepted it. Why are you telling me this? The words barely made it past her throat. A long pause filled with breath and background traffic. Because in 32 years, I never heard him laugh. Until you. I heard him laugh once, when you didn't know he was listening. You were singing to that boy of yours on FaceTime. Mr. Smith smiled. Then he laughed. Just a sound. But it was joy, Ms. Cologne. You gave him joy. Stacy's hands shook so hard she had to grip the phone with both palms. He's given up. He signed everything over. He's just sitting in that chair, waiting for them to end it. But I don't think he wants to die. I think he wants a reason to live. And I think you were that reason. He let them threaten me. Her voice cracked. My nephew. He didn't fight because he thought that would protect you. He thought if he gave them everything, they'd leave you alone. Charles's voice hardened. He's wrong. They'll tie up loose ends. You're a loose end, Ms. Cologne. So is that boy. Terror flooded through her like ice water in her veins. The only way any of you survive is if he fights back. And he won't. Not without you. The line went dead. Stacy sat in the dark, mind racing through every possibility, every outcome, every reason to stay home where it was safe. Then she thought about every moment with Derek, his tears tracking down his face, his hands cupping her cheeks, his raspy voice saying everything. She thought about Malik sleeping in the next room, 13 years old, and already learning that the world was built to break people like them. She thought about her sister in prison who'd told her once, voice fierce through the visiting room glass. Baby girl, the world's gonna tell you you're nothing. You gotta scream back that you're everything. She grabbed her keys. Malik's door opened. Auntie. Stay with Ms. Johnson. I gotta go do something. Are you gonna be okay? She kissed his forehead, breathing in the smell of his coconut oil and youth and trust. Yeah, baby. For the first time in my life, I'm gonna be okay. Because I'm gonna scream. She walked out the door before fear could stop her. 1:15 a.m. Stacy's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles ached. The mansion gates stood open like a mouth waiting to swallow her. Cars everywhere, another meeting. Perfect. She walked past security. They moved to stop her. She shoved through anyway, for years of being told where to stand and when to speak fueling every step. She burst into the study. 20 board members, lawyers in expensive suits, Derek in his wheelchair at the center of it all. Every face turned toward her. Ms. Cologne. Security grabbed her arm. You're a coward. Her voice cut through the room like breaking glass. Silence fell hard and complete. She looked directly at Derek. A brilliant, self-sacrificing coward. He wouldn't meet her eyes. You think protecting me means letting them win? Means dying for their sins? Langford moved forward. Someone remove her. I'm not done. Stacy's shout echoed off marble and mahogany and wealth that had never heard a voice like hers at full volume. You want to know what I know? I know you faked safety tests. I know you bribed federal regulators. I know you covered up 17 deaths before Derek's family. I know because I've read every file, photographed every document, backed it all up to a cloud server. And if anything happens to me, Derek, or my nephew, it all goes public. FBI, SEC, New York Times, Washington Post, every congressional representative, every victim's family. The room erupted, voices overlapping, chairs scraping, panic spreading like fire. Chin stepped forward, trying to regain control. You're bluffing. Stacy pulled out her phone, held it up like a weapon. Try me. I'm a black woman from the Bronx who's been underestimated her entire life. You think I'm scared of rich white people? I've got nothing to lose. You've got everything. Derek was staring at her now, something like wonder breaking across his face. Langford's voice shook with rage. You'll go to jail for theft, corporate espionage. No, she won't. Derek's voice rang clear. He stood, fully, steadily, for the first time in public view. Gasps rippled through the room like a physical wave. Because I gave her access to everything. 4 years ago, I started documenting your crimes. I couldn't do it alone. So I waited. For someone I could trust. Someone you'd never suspect. Someone invisible. He walked, shaky but determined, to Stacy's side. She found everything 2 weeks ago. We've been waiting for you to make your move. The attempted breach last week? That was you trying to find what I had. Well, now you know. The door burst open. FBI agents flooded in, led by Charles in a bulletproof vest with FBI across the chest. Charles removed a listening device from his jacket. Everything was recorded. The threats, the admission of staging accidents, conspiracy to commit murder. He looked at Derek with something like apology. I'm sorry, sir. I've been working with the Bureau for 6 months. We needed evidence of active conspiracy. Derek nodded slowly, a smile playing at his lips. I know. I figured it out 3 months ago. That's why I escalated. Agents moved through the room like a coordinated dance. Richard Langford, Elizabeth Chun, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, corporate fraud, obstruction of justice. Chaos. Handcuffs clicking. Miranda rights. Lawyers shouting over each other. The sound of an empire collapsing in real time. In the middle of it all, Derek turned to Stacy. You came back. Of course I came back, you idiot. I don't deserve. Stop. Saying that. She grabbed his face with both hands. I'm here because I choose to be. Not because you deserve me. Not because I'm saving you. Because we're saving each other. Because I don't want safe. I don't want quiet. I want real. And you're the realest thing I've ever had. He kissed her. In front of the FBI. The board. The lawyers. Everyone who thought people like them didn't belong together. When they broke apart, Stacy was crying. Also, I love you. Thought you should know. Derek laughed, really laughed, the sound filling the room. For the second time in 4 years. I love you. God, Stacy Cologne, I love you. An agent approached, professional and patient. Mr. Smith, Ms. Cologne, we'll need your full testimony. You'll get it, Stacy said, not breaking eye contact with Derek. But first, we're going home. This is your home. The agent gestured to the mansion around them. Stacy looked at Derek, saw her future in his eyes. No. Home's in Brooklyn. We're going there. 8 months later, C-SPAN cameras captured what would become the most watched congressional hearing of the year. Stacy Cologne sat at the witness table in a borrowed Navy suit, Derek beside her, facing a panel of senators and a gallery packed with press. She testified about what she'd found, what they'd exposed together, how everyday people were systematically failed by systems designed to protect the wealthy. Her voice never wavered. Ms. Cologne, a senator leaned forward, some have criticized your methods, breaking into files, removing documents without authorization. How do you respond? Stacy looked directly at the camera. Senator, I respond by saying that 17 families lost loved ones because profit mattered more than safety. Derek lost his wife and son. Those families deserve justice. Sometimes justice requires ordinary people to do extraordinary things. I don't regret a single thing. Applause erupted from the gallery before the chairman could call for order. 3 months after that hearing, new legislation passed. The Smith-Cologne Act, requiring independent safety testing for autonomous vehicles and mandatory disclosure of failed tests. A victim compensation fund distributed $500 million from corporate settlements. Derek's net worth dropped to $200 million after restitution, legal fees, and voluntary payments to families. He didn't care about a single dollar lost. Present day. Sunday morning in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Their brownstone was modest by Greenwich standards, a palace by Bronx standards, and home by any standard that mattered. In the backyard, Malik's basketball hit the rim with a satisfying clang. 13 going on 14 now, growing taller every week. Inside the kitchen, Derek stood over the stove attempting pancakes while Stacy corrected his technique from her perch on the counter. You're a billionaire who can't make pancakes. Former billionaire. And I had a chef. Well, you got me now. He kissed her temple, flour dusting his shirt. Best trade I ever made. The doorbell rang. Stacy's sister stood on the stoop, home on parole, carrying flowers and wearing freedom like new clothes. She hugged Stacy tight. Look at you. Got your man. Got your nephew. Got your voice. I always had my voice. I just learned to use it. Later that afternoon, Stacy sat on the stoop in her scrubs, back in nursing by choice, working at Brooklyn Hospital 3 days a week. Derek joined her with 2 cups of coffee, settling beside her like they'd done this 1,000 times. Long shift. Good shift. Helped a mom deliver twins. Reminded me why I do this work. You know you don't have to work. She looked at him over the rim of her cup. Yeah, I do. Not for money. Because caring for people is who I am. Just like dismantling corrupt systems is who you are. He was consulting with the FBI now, speaking at universities about corporate accountability, writing a book that would probably piss off every tech billionaire in Silicon Valley. Good. You know what I realized? Stacy leaned her head on his shoulder. I spent 4 years caring for you, making sure you were seen. But you were seeing me the whole time. You saw me when I was invisible to everyone else. You were never invisible. You were just surrounded by blind people. Well, you opened your eyes. You gave me a reason to. From inside, Malik's voice called out, Auntie, Uncle Derek, dinner's ready. Cooking had become their bonding time, Derek teaching him techniques while they talked about everything from basketball to physics to girls. They stood, hands finding each other automatically. Stacy looked at their brownstone, their family, their imperfect, beautiful life. You know the best part? What? This isn't a fairy tale. This is just Tuesday. This is real. Derek squeezed her hand. Best Tuesday I've ever had. They walked inside together, the door closing behind them on a life they'd built from truth and sacrifice and love that refused to stay quiet. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is believing you deserve love. Believing you deserve to be heard. Believing your voice matters. Stacy Cologne spent her life being told she was invisible, until she met someone who saw her from day one. But the real transformation? It wasn't him seeing her. It was her seeing herself. And when she finally spoke up, when she screamed, the whole world listened. On the kitchen counter, Stacy's nursing badge sat next to Derek's FBI consultant ID. Equal. Partners. Home. What would you do for love? Would you risk everything to speak your truth? Drop your answer below. Hit that like button if this story moved you. Subscribe for more powerful stories about finding your voice and claiming your worth. And remember, you are seen. You are heard. You are enough.